Jazakumullah, mashallah. We're perspiring with the effort. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Now I'll start from where he left. The most important point to be decided in this case is that the claim of Hazrat Masih Maud is that he is the promised Messiah. The fulfillment of the prophecies of Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that Messiah, Ibn Maryam, son of Mary, will descend. And when he will descend, he will do this and that and that. Now the most important issue to be decided is whether, according to the Holy Quran, the old Jesus, son of Mary, is alive or dead. Without resolving this issue, we cannot proceed further. Have I spoken on this as yet or not yet? During my last discourse, did I take it up?
No.
The issue of Jesus Christ being alive or dead?
Not last time.
Not yet. Because no Muslim, whichever sect he belongs to, can follow the Ahmadi argument without first deciding this issue. This is 100% certain that Hazrat Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam repeatedly gave us the promise that in the latter days, when so much will happen against Islam, so much so that Islam will be left only in name. He has described at length the situation of the Muslim world, which is very despicable and very, horrific. One reads and one begins to lose hope as to how such an ummah can be revived again. This is what Hazrat Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself felt at the time when he spoke of the calamities which were to befall the ummah of Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the latter days, in the age we are passing through. Someone inquired from him, "Atahliku hadhihi al-ummah?" Do you mean that this ummah will be destroyed and finished? That was the extent of the horrors implied in this prophecy. He said, no. How can it be possible for an ummah to be destroyed, which has me in the beginning and Jesus, son of Mary, in the end? Like the two covers of a book. When we bind a book, we put it in two covers, one on this side, on the other, and it is safe as long as the covers are safe. So exactly in the same way, he spoke of the ummah which is on one side protected by Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself, on the other side protected by the advent of Jesus. How can it be possible for this ummah to go to waste, to be saved? All right. This was the final verdict of Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah. But saved by whom? This is the question. Saved by the ulama or any movement among the Muslims, Jamaat Islami or Jamaat this or Jamaat that, or movements like in Syria, Akhwanul Muslimin, and so on and so forth? Nowhere, even remotely, he mentions such Jamaats and the efforts of the people of Islam together by themselves to be able to save the Ummah. Show me one place, and then I'll say, all right, I withdraw my case. Nowhere, not even remotely, does he mention that the ulama of the Ummah will get together, the people will get together, there will be a sense of urgency which will drive them together and make them united into different factions to work for the revival of Islam. And if that happens, then Ummah will be all right. He doesn't mention it. He says, I am in the beginning and Jesus at the end. And the revival and survival of Islam depends in the latter days on the coming of Jesus. That is the importance of this issue. And people don't care. They are not really concerned. They are carried away by different movements and different names. All right, this will save or that will save, and we will see the defeat turn into victory. But it does not happen. Every effort fails. Every hope dies down. Because the word of Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah must come to pass. Do whatever you may, you will not succeed. Because it is the design of God which succeeds, not the plots of the human beings which change the fate of a people. Inna Allah la yughayyiru ma biqawmin hatta yughayyiru ma bi anfusihim is right. But who changes? Allah, not the people. What they have to do is they must be worried, they must show concern, they must pray to Allah. They try to improve. But Allah changes. And when He changes through the instrument of prophethood. He always does this. The whole history of human religion stands witness to this fact. So consider the issue from whichever angle, the final outcome would be this: unless someone from God comes, the Ummah of Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam will not see the same good days again. This is the importance. Now, who would come? Jesus, son of Mary. But if the Holy Quran declares Him to be dead, positively, clearly, without ambiguity, then will the hope die? Then is there no revival, survival, any hope for the future of Islam? This is the question. We draw the attention of our Muslim brothers that the issue of life and death of Jesus is important to understand the prophecies of Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They can be taken literally or metaphorically. There is no third option. Either you take them as metaphors, as parables, messages contained in things like stories, but they are not stories. They are profound in wisdom. Only you have to open the lock of those parables and begin to see the beautiful realities lying underneath. This is the Ahmadi approach. If you reject, then they have to be taken literally. But if Jesus is dead, then even literal application is not possible. Everything is gone, finished. So that is why I repeatedly emphasize the importance of the question whether Jesus is alive or dead. If he is proved to be alive, then Ahmadiyyat is dead. No question of that. Forget about Ahmadiyyat. Then pray to Allah that He should send Jesus back to earth. Only there lies your hope. Not by making movements or organizations or fighting your own governments in the name of Islam. The only hope then lies in your prayer, begging to Allah, beseeching Him to send Jesus, or we'll be finished. Right? If he is alive, then this is the only hope. The Jews show better common sense than many Muslims do today. They are still awaiting Jesus Christ. Not Jesus, but Christ. And no Christ, according to them, has yet come. So what do? They go and strike their heads against the wall of wailing, crying, beseeching, making such a noise. It's very pitiable to see them madly striking their heads against the wall, crying to Allah, "Oh God, send us the Christ, whom you promised." Nobody comes because He has already come. Come and gone. Nobody recognized him. So maybe this is your case. Maybe he has come and gone, but you're looking in the wrong direction. So the issue of life or death of Jesus is the most important central point which has to be decided before we proceed further. Let him translate and then I'll come to that. Jazakallah khair. We believe that Jesus Christ was a prophet of Allah who lived a normal life. He was saved from dying upon cross miraculously by God. And after the crucifixion, as he himself had prophesied, he migrated from his country like prophets migrate and went in search of the lost sheep of the house of Israel. This is the Ahmadiyya belief. So he did not die upon cross. وَمَا قَتَلُوهُ وَمَا صَلَبُوهُ وَلَكِنْ شُبِّهَ لَهُمْ. We interpret this verse as they failed to murder him and they could not crucify him till his death. We say it is implied in this. An attempt to crucifixion cannot be called final crucifixion if the man is taken alive. It is crucifixion only when he dies upon cross. An attempt to murder cannot be called murder until the man dies during that attempt. So it is to this particular point that the same verses of the Quran draw our attention. Because at the end of this, the Holy Quran says, وَمَا قَتَلُوهُ يَقِينًا. It does not say, وَمَا صَلَبُوهُ يَقِينًا. If Salib was the issue, or attempted Salib was denied, then Allah should have said, وَمَا صَلَبُوهُ يَقِينًا. It says, وَمَا قَتَلُوهُ يَقِينًا. They attempted to crucify him, but they failed to murder him through crucifixion. Now this is a very important verse which I have quoted because on this verse largely depend the arguments of those who believe that Jesus is still alive and is in the heaven. So let me start with their argument and then I'll debunk this argument and then come to those verses which are so clear as the day has broken. And they speak of Jesus as having died here on earth, and there is no question of his life after Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Let him translate it, and although he did it very well in the long translation, in the long course as well, but I want to give him rest, right? MashaAllah. Another example of the use of qatl in case of somebody who escapes the attempt at murder, is in relation to the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned in the Quran. Wallahu yasimuka minan nas is the promise. Yet an attempt at murder was made against him by a Jewess who poisoned him. At Uhud, he fell down under the influence of a very severe wound and was taken as dead even by the Muslims. Yet he survived. So who can say he was murdered? None can. Because the attempt to murder had failed. So this is the meaning of ma qataluhu wa ma salabuhu. Eventually God saved him from death upon cross or from murder in any other form. But the Muslim scholars of old particularly draw their conclusion from this verse in 2-3 ways. Number one, they say وَمَا صَلَبُوهُ means that he was never crucified. The fact of crucifixion which we see reported in history in the books of the Jews, in the books of the Christians, they say it's all wrong. But how can you say that? How can you deny history? They say, well, we'll tell you what. It happened as if it had happened. But it was not Jesus who was crucified. It was someone it was an enemy of Jesus, a Jew, who had been completely changed in his looks. And his likeness to Jesus was made by God so perfect that he was 100% identical to Jesus as he hung. So they try to save the Quran from a false statement and try to explain away the fact of history as well by calling it false. It's impossible. There is no logic in it. This definitely shows that they have admitted defeat. They know definitely that the unanimous verdict of history cannot be rejected. So they come out with an explanation which is so stupid that instead of helping the Holy Quran, first of all, the Holy Quran does not need their help at all. Instead of defending the Holy Quran, they create more problems for the Quranic statements. They admit, as far as the people of the time were concerned, they saw someone hanging upon the cross who looked perfectly like Jesus. Correct or wrong? They say Jesus was taken away to the heaven, to the fourth heaven, and safely deposited there, away from the long arms of the Roman Empire and the Jews. So having done this, God let a Jew hang upon the cross who looked just like him. Is that right? This is the unanimous verdict of the ulama. Now, when they have started telling the world now, this is what happened. But up to the time of the revelation of the Quran, what was the unanimous verdict of history? That it was Jesus who hung upon the cross. It was Jesus who died upon the cross. Where did Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam explain this away in the sense that it was not Jesus? Show me one hadith. So the things which were kept a secret from the entire mankind for 600 years, and the things which were also kept a secret from Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or if God had revealed him the secret, it's impossible for him not to have shared it with us, was suddenly shared by God, was shared with mullahs of later ages, and they decided, they knew what Muhammad Rasulullah didn't know. It's sheer absurdity, impossible to believe. What we know is there was a Jesus hanging from the cross. Everyone saw him to be a Jesus. If he were not a Jesus, how do we know? Where is the proof? No proof. Neither in the Quran nor anywhere else, nor in Hadith. And they would have the Muslims believe this is exactly what happened. So they do not have an iota of evidence in favor of what they claim. But if he died upon cross, then the Quran will be proved to be wrong. And they help the enemies of the Quran prove exactly that. When they insist that that likeness of Jesus, which was hung upon cross, it also died upon cross. We protest against that. Because this means they admit defeat. And when they say, no, it was not really Jesus, who would believe you? You stand witness against the statement of the Quran and then try to escape the consequences by saying, but really he was not Jesus. Who would accept you? You have helped the enemies of Islam prove the falsehood of the Holy Quran by maintaining this belief. We simply cannot be a party to this crime. Right? So the simple facts are the simple facts. Somebody was crucified. Everyone who witnessed this knew it to be Jesus Christ. None stood witness against it. All of them said it was Jesus Christ. Now they say he also died upon cross. We say wrong. وَمَا قَتَلُوهُ يَقِينًا. He did not die upon cross. What happened? وَلَكِنْ شُبِّهَ لَهُمْ وَإِنَّ الَّذِينَ اخْتَلَفُوا فِيهِ لَفِي شَكٍّ مِّنْهُ مَا لَهُمْ بِهِ مِنْ عِلْمٍ إِلَّا اتِّبَاعَ الظَّنِّ وَمَا قَتَلُوهُ يَقِينًا. Can't they understand this simple statement? Please do this and then I'll turn to the later part. Point here, which is to be made very clear, very clearly, is that when they say that someone exactly like Jesus did hang upon cross, they admit defeat there and then. They fully endorse the history that crucifixion did take place and someone looking exactly like Jesus did hang. This is the verdict of history. They can't deny. But what they say is, to escape the consequence, they say, you think he was. We know he is not. You were born 1,000 or 2,000 years after that. Who will listen to you? You admit that the unanimous verdict of the contemporary people was that Jesus did this, someone looking like Jesus was crucified. You admit that. You never deny it. But now you tell the world it was not clearly Jesus, it was somebody else. Such an hollow excuse has never been presented in the history of logic in the world before. Who will listen to you? So when you admit this and you also admit that he died upon cross, you stand witness against the Holy Quran and support the enemies of Islam that the Quran is a false book. Is this what you call the love of the Quran? It's most horrible. The attitude on the part of this is most despicable. And they don't understand the consequences of their stance. This stance must be rejected completely by every lover of the Holy Quran. This is what should be emphasized, please. And after the revelation of the Quran, their story was yet unknown to Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, who was the recipient of the Quran. And the Sahaba. Show us one hadith which tells their story. Strange people. They say the whole world of Jesus didn't know, Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam didn't know, his companions didn't know. We know the real secret. Who would believe in them? We should believe in them. Telling us that you think Jesus was crucified, but it was somebody else in the shape. This is hadith which I am demanding. وَإِنَّ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا اخْتَلَفُوا فِيهِ لَفِي شَكٍّ مِّنْهُ وَإِنَّ الَّذِينَ اخْتَلَفُوا فِيهِ لَفِي شَكٍّ مِّنْهُ. About the qatl, about the sleep, they were in shock. وَمَا لَهُمْ بِهِ مِنْ عِلْمٍ إِلَّا اتِّبَاعَ الظَّنِّ. The shak, zan, shubha. All three are collected here. But their shak is not removed. The shak of these ulama. How can we do it? The Holy Quran has used three words, one after the other. The act, what you saw was just this, that he was hung. But to say that he died, it's wrong. And I'll come to that later on. You are in shock about him. And I am going to prove later on from the New Testament, from the evidence of history, that neither the Jews of his time nor the Christians of his time were certain of his death upon cross. So the Holy Quran is proved right. So would they accept a translation or an interpretation which would prove the Holy Quran to be wrong, or would they rather accept that interpretation, which is the Ahmadi interpretation, which proves the Holy Quran to be 100% correct? This is the position which has to be clarified. The second argument which they attempt to build from the same verse is that bal rafahu Allah ilayhi. What happened was, they did not crucify him, but God lifted him to the heaven. Okay? If that is the case, they had no knowledge about this, right? The Jews or the Christians had no knowledge, nor Hazrat Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, nor his companions, nor the first generation. So how could the Holy Quran say, مَا لَهُمْ بِهِ مِنْ عِلْمٍ إِلَّا اتِّبَاعَ الظَّنِّ? What is the zan being talked about? If he was lifted quietly, Jesus Christ, to heaven as they translated, then these verses become meaningless. What is the doubt about? They had no knowledge. What is the fight about? What they disagree with each other? Because they had perfectly, absolutely no knowledge that this man was not Jesus. So all these verses become totally meaningless. But apart from that, Rafa'ullah ilayh is a statement of the Holy Quran which cannot be translated as God lifted him to the fourth heaven. No sane man with any genuine knowledge of Arabic, unless he is prejudiced, can distort the meaning of this verse to that extent. Rafa'ullahu ila sama? No. Ilahi, to Allah himself. Where was God at the time of crucifixion? Had he gone somewhere else? He was there, where Jesus was. So how could he be lifted bodily? It is impossible. Because the time is over. After this translation, we will return tomorrow, inshallah, to the same subject. And I'm going to exhaust it to the end, inshallah.
فإذا إن الله سبحانه وتعالى أخذه خفية.
إن الذين اختلفوا فيه لفي شك منه. There was no shak about it. Everybody knew that it was Jesus. So when they interpret it this way, all the verses, statements of the Holy Quran fall under doubt. Allah did not say Rafa'ahullahu ila samai, bal Rafa'ahullahu ilayhi. I said, where was God? Wherever God was, he should have been lifted in that direction. Allah nuru samawati wal ard. Aina ma tawallu fathamma wajhullah. Poor Jesus, in which direction would he go? This, that, or start circling around himself?
أي اتجاه يذهب.
Do you start rotating around himself? It's impossible. These mullahs, I can't understand what sort of brains they have. They have to be dissected. Okay, we take leave of you now.